Hi, I'm Kafrina, or Kath, or Kathy, or Ina. I am a transgender creative. I love taking photos, especially with my trusty Polaroid camera. I love writing, be it fiction, hello AOC, essays, or even songs. I love making music and singing, and you can see me cosplay either at home or in the occasional convention. Most of all, though, I am an artist. I make 2D illustrations. I make drawings. I sketch, both digitally and traditionally. And I make 3D art, most especially of historical buildings. I am a part of a project under my organization, Reconocimiento Manila, aiming to recreate Manila before World War II. We call it the Digital Manila Project. When and how did you start creating digital models? Believe it or not, when I was a toddler. I was a really curious kid back then, and that led me to discovering SketchUp. It was it was a very new app. Then I think I saw it when it was still Google SketchUp, and I think I first downloaded it in my dad's computer when it was still Google SketchUp 7, I think. Either way, it's a funny thing to see a toddler using a professional app as a playground. Well, that would be it for a while. But then I started delving deep into it for school projects later in high school. And you know how I've always been a creative person. By that, I mean, ever since childhood, you wouldn't see me without a sketchbook 90% of the time. I began using it seriously for stuff like creating environments for a movie style poster that I had to make for my grade 9 school play. And around that time, I also started trying to recreate a ghost town as it used to look like when it was still lived in. Then yes, I came across Renacimiento a few years after that, and the rest is history. When recreating historic landmarks and cityscapes, what are important things to remember and prepare? One super important thing for me is to humanize them. When I prepare the landscapes and cityscapes for rendering, most of the time I render them from a ground perspective. Because for me, it is one thing to see them from above or from aerial views or whatever, but for me, it's another thing and a more relatable thing to see them from a human perspective. It brings everything into something that I hope is more digestible, something that is more relatable even. Either way, it's doing this means that it could be something that people can think, oh wow, imagine so many things I could have done here. Or in the case of some of my friends who are younger than me, they were like, oh my god, there's so many things. There's so many creative things. I have so many creative ideas. Imagine setting A or setting B. This could be the start of a romance novel or some really amazing fiction. It's kind of inspiring, not gonna lie. As for the actual recreation and preparing work, honestly, prepare to comb through archives. Lots of photos. And all of that. Especially if the building itself were at the very least its slots still exist as it was, when possible, follow that for accuracy. Even better, if the building has its plans or drawings available, follow those. Another thing is research. Even anecdotes or a seemingly unrelated photo nested somewhere in a book or a magazine or a newspaper can give a surprising angle that shows details that were previously considered unseen enough. This happens to the point that even when they're blurry, because half of the time they could be from aerial photographs or just your run-of-the-mill showcase photograph in magazines and stuff, again, even if they're blurry, guesswork can be done. This leads to another important thing. For me, I try to study the existing images and try to think like the architect. This helps me fill other gaps where possible, and 80% of the time, even 90% at some cases, I get things correctly when I do this. What do you think is the relevance of what you do, digital modeling, in the field of heritage and history? Okay, accessibility, relatability, and being a bridge that connects the gap between the past and the present. 3D modeling historic spaces as they were in the day means that everyone who sees it can literally have a snapshot of old times in their very fingertips or in front of their screen, or either way, they can experience bygone eras. They could be able to go around anytime and anywhere they want to. More importantly, it enables anyone to not only view history, but to experience it. And not only that, like, as I said earlier, it also inspires other people. Also inspires other people to create things revolving around that. Because it could be like visualized super clearly in their mind, especially when you really do a super good and accurate job of what you're trying to do. It's just, I don't know. It it's something that I've really wanted to do. Like, yeah, like my goal and philosophy in this entire thing is to bring history to the masses, or as I usually say it, dadalhin ko ang kasaysayan sa masa. What keeps you motivated in doing that you do? Hard question, actually. Much of my creative bursts tend to come in, well, bursts of high activity followed by long rest periods. One thing's for sure, though, I get excited or activated whenever I see new references or things that bring me new perspectives, and anything that I end up having trouble modeling, or anything that stumps me during the process, even. Sometimes, though, I just open the modeling app and I just do one thing, one more small thing, another small thing, and yet another small thing, until it starts snowballing, in the sense that I end up having a big activity spree on creating. For real, though, what keeps me motivated is the idea of being able to bring life into things long gone, to breathe life into things that don't exist anymore. It's something that my wife has noticed in me, actually. I tend to be drawn to spaces that once existed, be it old Manila and its charm, or the first World Trade Center campus in New York. And yes, I am making a model of the place in its full glory. It's just something that draws me into it. And also, just the idea of people realizing that, whoa, it was beautiful back then. Whoa, it feels more. It doesn't feel like something that used to be just something that we just have to go through in our studies, or just, oh, old photo. The fact that it's colorful and hopefully alive, even the idea that people who were like, oh my god, wow, Manila is so tiring, oh my god, it's so messed up. I mean, yeah, it is messed up today. Manila today is just, if I'm gonna be honest, it's full of blight. But it's also beautiful too. And when I show that to people, somehow, I don't know, they also see it too. And that's what motivates me. The idea of bringing how I see things into them motivates me. The idea that people learn to appreciate so many things about our culture, our history, it brings a sense of pride. I don't even know if those are the right words, but yeah. How did you become part of Renacimiento Manila and its Digital Manila project? Short story, my best friend tagging me in a recommended post on April 2020, just as the pandemic entered its full swing. It was a drawing that Renacimiento's founder, Sir Diego Torres, made of Plaza de España in Intramuros, with the key landmarks that used to complete the historic scenery restored and brought to the modern age. Long answer. Okay, this is going to be a bit. The seeds were really planted in 2016, I think, when I was still in grade 9. Our Filipino class, it was our Filipino class when we were discussing about Noli Me Tangere at that point, and it was our final project. We were told to make a comic for a quote-unquote alternate ending for the book, and I ended up going to a massive research spree because I went, okay, I want this to be accurate. Okay, I actually want this to represent what colonial times used to look like. And since part of it part of whatever story that we were cooking up, my group was cooking up, was held in Intramuros. I wanted to be okay. I want to represent what colonial Manila used to look and be like during that time. And yes, I came across Intramuros, the seven churches, the multiple institutions and schools that used to be in the walled city, and well, the fort as it used to be. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to incorporate this into the comic actually. It never really left me since then. Started following more about our history, started following progress updates and stuff, started following what's happening in the walled city, and even started to follow stuff about old Manila in general. Come 2019, I was actually starting to make drawings of, hey, what if these places were restored? What if these places were never destroyed or just or like bringing them to the modern age even, you know? And that brought me to my best friend in 2020 with that post where she tagged me and all of that with a drawing of Playa de España in Intramuros. And here we are. I was just told to do the Santo Tomas campus at first as like a test thing, but then a snowball happened. I went ahead and 3D'd the entire space. Well, it was crude and obviously still not as refined as I like to say I am now, but it did a job. I got better. I actually managed to model the facade of Santo Domingo for the first time, even though up until now I still like do major and minor changes whenever I actually force myself to to get into that skill level, you know? And afterwards we just blew up. Digital Manila began technically in November 2021 when we started like doing pre-war Manila, when it was just like pre-war Manila models and stuff. We started making mock-ups of Jones Bridge, of Capitol Theater and all of that. It never really gone full swing until mid 2021. Which was also a super rough time for me, if I'm going to be honest. Um, Digital Manila became a lifeline of sorts for me. COVID troubles, house problems. There was a point when creating, even the mere idea of creating art or singing or whatever, just the mere idea of creating it became a trigger for my mental health. I cannot stress enough how hard it was for me, but for some reason, I, for some reason, I slowly but surely pulled myself up from everything. People who know me well says that it was sheer willpower that drove me, I guess. And in the face of indifference, I wrote my own deliverance, you know, just like that line in Hamilton, I guess. It started with one new model the just for the then just born pre-war Manila project, and we just went on from there. I got better, and we managed to finish Escolta Street by April 2022. It's a really, really long story, truth be told, but here we are. What would you like to share to other prospective modelers of historic landmarks and cityscapes? Aside from the aim of being accurate as possible, because these are historic places and I kind of want to see them model as best as possible, always think of the human perspective. Don't just create replicas or recreations of things just for the sake of it. Don't create 3D models I would even say, I don't know how to explain what I mean in this, but in an overtly glorifying sense, where you're just like, I don't know. Words aren't wording, but I hope you got me. I don't know the proper words to put this really, but yeah, always keep in mind that behind the structure are stories. People once lived here. People once did their lives here. They may be things that we look at in a nostalgic lens even, but I think it's important to think about the fact that these, after all, or in some cases, still are spaces that are meant for humans to live, breathe, work, have experiences. That's the one important thing that I would really love to tell anyone who wants to start modeling historic places. Not only that, there's definitely passion too. Especially if you're super passionate about things, you're going to really give your all into it. But remember, take breaks for yourself. Take it from me, burnout sucks. So it's best to allow yourself some respite sometimes. I can't exactly remember word for word what he said, but I take it to heart. This is one of my favorite architects. His name is Minoru Yamasaki, and it's his design philosophy. It's something that I live by. I try to apply it everywhere I go. It goes something like, doesn't matter how high or how extravagant you make a structure. It doesn't matter if you want to be the tallest building or want to be the most beautiful building. What matters is how the people use it, how the people how the people interact with it in the ground. That for me is what matters the most. That for Yama mattered the most. So yeah, thank you so much, I guess.